Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with the Digital Divide. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Sega Saturn. If you watch my channel, you know it's my favorite system of all time. It was the first video that I ever made. I've owned a few of these. My dad even gave me one a few years back, but unfortunately the laser on that thing died, so I recently picked up a new one at my local record shop downtown, and I figured I'm going to get back into Sega Saturn gaming. I had a few objectives, much like my Wii video that I posted about a month ago, and number one on that list is that I wanted to upgrade the video output to HDMI so it doesn't look like shit on a modern TV. Number two is I want to add wireless controller functionality because the Sega Saturn never released a wireless controller during its production. And then number three is that I want to modify the console to remove region lock so I can play Japanese or European games and even game backups. So these are the cables that originally came with the Sega Saturn. They're composite cables. They came with most old consoles, so those are trash. We're going to toss these aside. The video solution I ended up landing on is the Hyperkin HDMI adapter for the Saturn. These are some of the most highly rated cables that were on Amazon, and I figured I'd give it a try. It even comes with the option to convert the video output between 4:3 or 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. For the wireless solution, I actually found an officially licensed Retrobit Sega Saturn controller, and this thing, as you can see here, the box looks exactly like the box of the original Sega Saturn with the white and silver embellishes. I've never actually opened this up, so I'm going to go ahead and do it for the first time now. This thing has super high ratings, and it's one of the pricier controllers for the Saturn aftermarket. Oh wow, this fancy box. It has the Retrobit logo there at the bottom right. This is way more than I expected. This is super fancy. Alright, so let's open this up. There's nothing more satisfying than pulling off the plastic on a new piece of hardware. Man, these buttons feel really good. Looks like they added a home and select button on the front. The weight of this thing is really comparable to the old school Sega Saturn. It looks like it charges through a micro USB, which I didn't know when I bought this. I thought it took batteries, but it's actually looks like it's a rechargeable controller, and it adds the home and select buttons there because this works not only with the Saturn, as you can see here. This is the official Saturn plug or receiver that you would use to transmit on an actual Saturn hardware unit, but it also comes with this USB cable, and this is to plug into like a Wii or a computer, or I think it even supports the PS3. This is super fancy. I like the case a lot. So you can see here that the model I bought is actually currently sold out, the black one. So I was lucky to get one before this happened, because I bought one and literally the day after I bought it, it sold out. But this is officially licensed. It works with the Genesis, PC, Mac, Switch, a bunch of consoles. It looks like there are some other variants of this controller, like this blue one here that is still on sale for 35 bucks, which is what I paid for the black one. But the black one itself looks like it's sold out currently. So this is the action replay. This is the most important part of my venture into getting back into the Sega Saturn, and we'll get into that in a bit. But this does a lot. It's typically a memory card, and then in addition to that, it expands the RAM capacity on the Saturn, and then on top of that, it also region unlocks the console so that you can play games from any region outside of the US. So they also make these like knockoff carts. They're made in China. You can see they're shipped from Hong Kong. They have the red label. I wouldn't recommend these. I would spend the extra money to get a legitimate action replay cart. So why the action replay card is probably what you're asking. Well, we're gonna mod this card using Pseudo Saturn Kai. This is a open source project that is crowdfunded, and it lets you flash this cartridge, and once it's flashed, you can do so many things with the Saturn. So this is the actual process of flashing the unit, and it's involved. It's not super difficult, but it is definitely not recommended for a novice. You have to open up the console. You have to tape together the sensor that detects whether or not the drive is, or the lid for the CD drive is closed or not. and then you have to do a disc swap, and you have to time it perfectly in order to get the burnt copy of the firmware that you need to flash onto the cartridge to work. So it's a lot, but it's worth it. Once you do it, you can remove region lock so that you can play Japanese imports and European imports if you want. You can even play game backups burnt onto a CD. It provides the RAM expansion pack needed to play some titles. And I do want to mention, though, that if you do this, if you mod the cart and you flash it, it will no longer be able to be used as a storage device to save games, so you might want to buy 2 of them. And if you don't want to go through all that trouble of modding yourself, you can just buy a pre-flashed cartridge on eBay, which is what I ended up doing. It's a legitimate action replay cartridge, just it's not one of those Chinese knockoffs. So it's a great deal because really it's only like 10 or 15 bucks more than just ordering an action replay by itself, and the work has already been done for you. Now, I do recommend, as soon as you buy a Saturn, to replace the CMOS battery on the back of the unit here. It's a little difficult to open up, but you can see it here. These go bad, so I always recommend, if you ever buy a Saturn, replace the battery. And the ones I use are the Energizer batteries, and it's supposed to have a 10-year lifespan. So this is my test unit that I use. It's like a little tiny screen that I use for my retro consoles just to make sure they're working when I tinker with them before I plug them into the big screen. So it looks like the Saturn's turning on. It remembers the date and the time that I put on there, so the CMOS battery is working. Now we're going to put the action replay into this unit. Now, again, I bought this on eBay. It was already flashed, so I didn't have to do anything. It should already have Pseudo Saturn on it. So here's a reproduction copy of Grandia that I made. Now, this game was never released in the United States, and there was never an English translated version of this game for the Sega Saturn. There is a PlayStation 1 copy, but you can't buy this game in English on the Sega Saturn, which is the reason primarily that I bought this cartridge, because not only does it let me play games that are on a disc like this, but this is the Japanese version of the game, and it also has an English translation patch on it that does not exist at retail, so you can't buy this game in English. So you can see when I boot into it, it loads into Pseudo Saturn Kai, and you've got a couple options here that you can modify, or you can just launch right into the game. So we're going to go ahead and launch the game now, and you can see that it boots right into the game. This is a burnt copy of a Japanese game that has a fan-made English translation patch that you can't buy anywhere, and I'm playing it right now, which is just awesome. Especially if you're a collector of Saturn games. Now you can play all kinds of games that you never had access to before. So the act of actually burning a CD is super simple. I use Image Burn. It's a free software you can get online. So you basically launch that and then click Write Image File to Disk, and then click on the folder, and you can see this is where I have my Sega Saturn games. I have Guardian Heroes loaded. You want to make sure that you click on the Q file, and it is important that you click on the Q file. It'll automatically grab everything else as long as you do that. Now, I would recommend writing it no faster than a 10 speed. And the general consensus in the Saturn community is that if you go any higher than that, the quality of these reproductions can get a little bit unstable. And when you're ready, you just click on Write, and you're good to go. So this is my current collection of games that I have. A lot of these are actual games that I just don't have the cases for, or games that I do have the cases for that I just want to reduce wear on, because those cases have notoriously bad hinges. They break a lot. And then some of these are games that I can't buy, like Grandia, for example, that I showed earlier, where they were Japanese only and you can't buy them anywhere. One of the great things about reproduction cases is you can make custom covers like these two, which I think are great examples because they look way better, in my opinion, than the original covers that came with the console. So how do I make these covers? Well, there's a website called thecoverproject.net. If you go here, there is a group of fans and collectors that have reproduced these covers, because the cases themselves are pretty difficult to find these days because they're like I said, the hinges break. A lot of people treat them like crap, and they may have the original disc but not the cover. So you can go in, you can see they have so many different consoles. Here's Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. You just click on download, And they're sized so that when you print them, they should fit into a standard size DVD case. There is some trimming involved, but this is what they end up coming out like. You can see that I use like a glossy paper here, but the quality is really, really great actually. It's comparable to the original case. So I like to use just a glossy photo paper. I use the HP Everyday photo paper. It's high quality, super glossy, very comparable to like an original Saturn case. So I like these white cases. What I start off doing is I grab a white piece of paper and I lay it on top of a DVD case and I measure out the trim because it's not quite the exact size. So you got to cut on both axes to get it right. So I just do some eyeballing and some measuring to figure out what I need to, how much of the paper I need to trim to make a perfect fit on the DVD case. And again, I like to use the white cases because I think they look the best with Sega Saturn covers, which are also white. So I'm just doing some measurements here by eye, and then I'm going to cut it. And what I'm doing right now is I'm making a template. And this template is what I'm going to use to size all of my covers from now on. So it doesn't quite fit, so I'd still need to trim some off the sides here. Okay, so now we've got a perfect fit. So this template is great. So now this is the copy that I printed earlier of Marvel vs. Capcom. And now that I have the template, I'm just going to lay it on top of that print, and then I know exactly where to cut so that it'll fit in the DVD case perfectly. Now all I have to do is cut it to size, and I can reuse this template over and over again for all of the covers that I print out. And these cases you can buy on Amazon, or you can go to your local thrift shop and buy like cheap $1 DVDs, and then just use the cases. They're super cheap. Alright, so now I've got a cover that should fit perfectly into this DVD because I used the template that I created previously, and there you go. Perfect fit. Quality is excellent as well. Glossy. It just looks really, really nice. Now guys, I wanted to show you the quality of the Hyperkin cable that I bought, but truth be told, it hasn't come in the mail yet. I'm still waiting. But a YouTube channel here did the work for me. This is the video that convinced me to buy the cable, so you can take a look here and see the difference in clarity, color reproduction, and brightness that the Hyperkin cable provides. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're a Saturn collector like I am, I hope this helped you out a bit. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you.